Hi, everyone, and welcome to this session. I hope everybody's having a great BB Dev Days so far. Sorry, Nick and I were just talking about BBCon. So this session for this hour is about unlocking Blackbaud education management, syncing your school data via Sky API and Google Apps Script. And apparently this is the V2 of this presentation. So before I get started and hand this over to Nick, I want to make sure that I promote the Innovation Awards grants and make sure all of you are signing up for that. One of the things they want us to promote to this, and hang on, let me get my script up here. So this is an awesome opportunity for you to submit any idea that you may have that you want to become reality at your organization using your Blackbaud solutions and all of the technology and innovation that can be done around that. So we are doing 3 innovation grants this year. And the winners of those grants will work directly with our 2024 Innovation Grant sponsors, which are Microsoft, NP Automate, and Sentinel Consulting. So this will be a free opportunity for you to work with folks. So you can scan the QR code there to go apply. It's super easy. It can take just about 2 minutes. It can take, what we ask you to do is create maybe like a 2-minute video that highlights what it is that you want to do, what your big idea is. So it's super easy to apply. Don't think about having to make this some kind of big production video or anything else like that. It doesn't have to be like a TED talk or anything else like that, especially. One of the things to really think about is no idea is too small or too big. We love to see all kinds of stuff come across as submissions. So hopefully what you will do is take some time and scan that QR code. One thing to note is that the deadline for submission has been extended up to 5 p.m. today. Today, so June 5th. So don't delay in just cutting a quick video, talking about your idea, and then submitting that. So without further ado, Nick, I will pass it over to you so you can have full access and everything. And I'm going to drop back to the backstage area and monitor things for you.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Kent. All right. So let me see if that's coming through. Okay. Great. Awesome. Hey, folks. My name is Nick Marchese. I saw one question already pop through, and I apologize. I'm going to do the 2-screen thing. I believe the session will be video recorded, and Kent can confirm. And if you need access to the slides directly, you can always reach out to me. Okay. Everybody hear me okay? Kent, all good? Great. All right. Thank you. Okay. So, hi, folks. My name is Nick Marchese. I'm the Director of Academic and Strategic Tech at the Emma Willard School in Troy, New York. Today, I'm going to go ahead and kind of jump back here, doing a session called Unlocking Blackbaud Education Management, Syncing Your School Data via the Sky API and Google Apps Script, Volume 2. So if you were here last year, I did a version of this session last year, and I'm back to kind of give a little bit of a refresher for folks who saw it last year. And then if this is your first time meeting me virtually here, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so Randy went over a little bit about me. I love using Google Apps Script to solve problems for many, many years, specifically all those specific independent school problems that we all face in independent schools. I also like utilizing the Blackbaud Sky API in addition to the app script to solve those things and make them more efficient and not just these one-off pieces. I got 2 little ones and I love Manhattans. All right. So, and I apologize if I can't see all of the chat stuff. It's really far away on the screen, but I promise you I will come back to it. And Kent, if there's anything urgent, feel free to jump in. Okay, so here's a little bit of our agenda today. A little bit about me. How'd we get here? Talk about the last 12 months. Then we're going to dive into Sky API and the examples with that, examples of the usage, why go through with it, what is it, and then diving into some use cases and demos. And then if you're interested or you have any questions, we can get started. Okay. All right. So last year at this time, I think it was exactly this Wednesday last year, I was able to give this version of this workshop. And if anybody's in Atlas School, I actually did a version of it 2 months before that at Atlas in Grand Rapids, which made me come here and do it here. Since I did this presentation at Dev Days last year, I have connected with over 40 different schools actively using this solution and 75 other school connections along the way. And it's been a really fantastic way to build community around a problem and ways to connect with folks on how they are leveraging data within their school environment. So a big thank you to like everybody who's been really supportive in that process, and especially remaining in contact. And I love knowing that I have all of these little connections throughout the country, from both near here in New York where I am and as far as Hawaii and Canada. So how did we get here? I talked a lot about using app scripts to solve problems, right? So early on, creating scripts to automatically populate teacher and student Google calendars, creating rosters automatically, pulling down data so we can go ahead and sync to other systems. Whatever it is, it's one of those things where it says, oh, is that a thing, something we can do? It's like, well, with a little bit of time and a little bit of, spit and glue, I could probably build something to make it work. And that's kind of the most fun for me. So I had a teacher and student calendar script running for a while to populate student and teacher calendars with their classes. But it was always something that needed a little bit of work, and I wanted to go ahead and connect it into the Sky API. That way, the data would always remain up to speed or up to date versus it always being kind of stale. Right? Because once you go ahead and pull that data down, and then as soon as a kid changes a course or anything like that, then it very quickly will be out of date. So I was bashing my head against the wall for many months, checked in with some peer schools for all of us to kind of beg, borrow, and steal from Stack Overflow and the Blackbaud documentation, and finally was able to get in. And I'm going to reuse my little Tron picture reference here to get into the API and being able to really change how dynamic these scripts can be to create live data, using live data rather than something that I'm just downloading a CSV. So a little bit of a quick overview. Okay, so why go through the hassle of using Sky API when syncing your data versus just like, let's just run some lists and export them data and so on and so forth. So without our Sky API here, data can only be pulled. It is only up to date based on the last pull. Usually needing someone, a person maybe, to pull the data manually onto their own computer or a computer. You often get many copies of the same Excel file on your computer with similar names. If you've seen this on yours, I would, student list -1, student list -2, student list -1 final, student list -official. So like, which one of these should I actually be using? If you are like me, this is a way that it has worked in the past, but like definitely not a sustainable way. Okay, so let's add the Sky API into there. The data is always going to be up to date, right? So if you made a change recently, no problem, right? It's automatically going to sync, easy peasy. If you want to, you could automatically pull this data without any human interaction. You just set up those triggers, they're automatically running. You don't have to do anything. So this means you can go on more vacations. You have no reliance on an end user computer. Again, more vacations. And there's no more copies of those duplicate Excel files, so that you're going to have all this extra hard drive space that I just don't know what you're going to do with it all. But you're going to have a lot of that stuff. All right. Copy of final official student lists. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate that. So these, if you're not convinced yet, okay, great. So if you're not convinced yet, maybe we'll chat more. But it's really going to be a game changer once you're in there. Okay. So what I have built out over the last year was essentially a Google Sheet that's connected to an app script as a way to pull advanced lists into education management advanced lists into the Google Sheet automatically and keep it up to date. So some examples of this that we have running right now, right? So this is for course enrollment. As you could see, it's pulling in the classes, some details about the classes, and then how many students are enrolled in them. And again, if my registrar goes and makes a change on education management, then that will automatically update in here. So that way those enrollment numbers will go up and go down automatically. A way to bring in large swaths of data that you might use for other systems. So I forget if this one is for Apple School Manager or Remind, to be able to go ahead and those systems that require all those CSV files, to go ahead and build those out as lists. So that way you can go ahead and pull them down, and then they're just automatically there for you, ready to go into that other system. And then a way for you to automatically sync group rosters, activity group rosters. So if you have a student life department, let's say, that says, oh, I keep my own spreadsheet of who's in which club, because I just can't click into all the different groups on education management. This gives you a Google Sheet friendly version of that single source of truth within Blackbaud. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause here. So what we're talking about here is taking data out of our system and bringing it down into a sheet. So that way you can do things with it, right? It can go into other systems. It can be ported. It can be manipulated. You can do import ranges. You can do all that good stuff. And with that great power comes great responsibility. This, I know, an old reference at this point, but keeping in mind that what you have access to at the user level in your system, and then where that data is going when it's out of the system, and then who gains access to that. Who are you giving access to that? So if this is non-sensitive information, this isn't as much of a concern, but keep in mind if this is something that contains some PII in any sort of way or sensitive information, you just have to be careful when you're pulling that data out that is no longer within the confines of the permissions set within your environment. Okay, so let's jump over to Sky API basics here. So if you're here, you probably know a little bit about Sky API, but maybe not. So the Sky API is the newer API for with Blackbaud, along with the One Roster API, and there's other pieces here. And I want you to be able to see on the left side, there's a lot of things called endpoints, right? Endpoints essentially just the different doors to access the different pieces of data within your system. So here's a screenshot of the reference page here of the list of lists endpoint. And essentially what that's doing is it's pulling a list of all the lists that you have access to. And then you can see on the left, there's a whole bunch more endpoints here. And I'll actually switch over to the live. Let me see if that goes. So this is that live website. And on here, on the right side, there's a couple of different things that I want to point out, which are really great. There's this try it button on the right side. So if you click that try it button, you can actually run these endpoints against your environment and see what the data returns. So that way, without any coding at all, you can go ahead and play with these and see if it's actually going to give you what you need. It'll also, if you scroll down, give you an idea of what some sample data would look like, right? So it says list one, basic, first name, description, category, created by, all that good stuff. And then on the left, you could see all of these things are the different endpoints for Sky API. So you see a lot of things called get, and get is literally that is getting those that data. It's pulling it down. There's some things that are post for pushing stuff back up, and delete, which we don't touch here today, but delete is delete. There's also a way to group this by tags. So you can look for only the academic stuff, right? Master schedules, so on and so forth, and be able to go ahead and click through and see what you think would work best for you. I'm going to kind of guide us a little bit here if this is your first time. So here are some sample API calls, Sky API calls within AppScript, little snippets here, and some descriptions of things that I've used in the past. So I put 5 here so you can see that first one. Says academic master schedule. So it returns a collection of the master schedule days within a date range. Academic sections by school level. Says returning all the different academic sections for your school. or your school level. Academic students by section. So this is returning what students are in which class. Think rostering. So you need to know who's in what classes. That's how you can go ahead and keep that roster up to date. The list of lists, that's saying, hey, you have access to all of these lists. I'll show you what that looks like. And then list single is, okay, we're going to pick out one of those lists, and now let's actually get the data from it, and we'll return that here. So I'll show you what those look like in a moment when we switch over. In addition, I'll show you the link towards the end. There's this other little reference page that I made from a couple of years ago now that essentially just gives you a simpler version of that, so you know what some of these endpoints do that I found to be the most popular. Okay, so I'm going to keep on rolling here. So if you were with me last year, hi, it's good to see you again. So potential improvements in the future, maybe this summer, depends, as school educators, how the summer goes with summer work over here. But some of the improvements that have been called for or asked for or requested, things like measuring a list size so you can see how many rows are in a list. And predicting whether or not it's going to time out because it's just too many rows. So whether you have the rows that you're syncing, the list that you're syncing, 300 rows or 3,000 rows or 30,000 rows. And I've seen it all. And with an app script, you could only do so many rows within the timeout before it just stops. So this, I think, could be a really great little extra feature if I get to it. Allowing data remain within the sheet while it's being updated. Again, this is for people who have used it before, so they know what I'm talking about. Automatically checking if a list is empty. Maybe you're trying to sync a list and it's throwing an error because it's empty, actually, and you need to go ahead and fix your list, not the script. And then some other pieces in here as well. Okay. So I just want to do a little bit of demo, show you what we're talking about here. And then I would love to open it up for some questions or some Q&A. And you'll see there's a little QR code that's been on each slide, and I'll put it on the end. So that way, if you are interested in getting started with this script, I'm not giving out I'm not walking everybody through it right now because I can't talk to you and help you out. But you fill out that form, and then we can go ahead and work on it together and schedule a time to make sure that way it gets set up in the best way. All right. So let's go over. So this is the template that will be shared with you if you're someone who's interested in getting started. Now, there are some instructions that I typed out in a really crazy way. Doing images within sheets is no easy task, but there are some instructions here that folks have been able to reference if they need to. So this sheet has a couple of different things going on. There's two tabs to start. There's a getting started, which has the instructions, and there's this one called script updates. Script updates here is essentially just an import range into one of my sheets. It's the only way I can actually give you some like updates live, because it's not an add-on, right? It's not a Chrome extension or anything like that. So between me having an import range and your email address, that's kind of the only way to kind of like keep you up to date on if things are going on. With this template, there's also a Google Apps Script file attached to it, which is really, really, really small because it is referencing a central Apps Script library file. That way, if there's a breaking change or even minor change that needs to be made, I can update that central library file and then say, hey, folks, if you want to go ahead and update to the latest version, then you can go ahead and just upgrade and update, and you'll get the latest stuff. So that's how this is kind of all built. It's got a tiny little AppScript file bound to it that's referencing a different library file. And that tiny little script that's bound to it adds this little custom menu bar here called Breaking the Blackbaud from Library. It's a mouthful. And it has a bunch of different things here for getting started. So getting started, you have to go through all the setup stuff, syncing your list, syncing group rosters, and then ways to contact me. Once you get it all set up, it looks something like this. So you could see this is one that we're using currently. So I have getting started, and I have your list. And then I have a new tab. So let me go to your lists. Woo! So on my your list, I can see all the lists that I have access to, and then I can go ahead and check the box next to any of the lists that I would like to sync, and then it makes a new tab for each of those lists. Automatically makes a new tab for each of those lists that I have checked, and it updates them every hour. So that is the default frequency for that trigger. Folks have been able to tweak that so it can be more frequent or less frequent depending on the needs. But there's also quotas to kind of take into consideration with both Google and with Blackbaud. So an hour has been kind of the safe bet. But these sheets that I have checked off in the Your List tab will automatically be updating here with the latest data, and it's pulling directly out of the advanced list in Blackbaud. So that is kind of like what the end goal looks like for this script. And then the best practice that I always tell folks is once you get this going, and whether it's for you or your team, then you don't share it with anybody, but then you can go ahead and create a new sheet and import the data from this tab over to that other sheet, using like an import range, and then give that new sheet to somebody else. So that way nobody has access to the direct source and is able to go ahead and check different lists that they might not technically have access to that data to. Remember that great power, great responsibility piece. Okay, so that's just like a very quick demo of how this works. Again, this menu bar at the top here is where you can sync those, get those lists syncing and syncing group rosters in there. And again, if you're something that you're interested in, I would love to connect with you. It's been invaluable to be able to pull advanced list data quickly and easily out of Blackbaud and into Sheets, and then being able to port it over and manipulate it and filter it and do other things without having to run the list, download the Excel file, dump it into Sheets, and then 10 minutes later, it's stale, it's out of date. Okay. So I'm going to leave this up for a moment. There's a couple of different things I'm putting here. So that QR and that first bit.ly, that's just a getting started form. That's the same QR that's been on every slide. So if you are interested in connecting and getting started, I would love to hear from you. You can go ahead and fill that out there. It basically just asks for your email and your name and whether you've done any coding before. And then those two links on the bottom, this endpoint guide, that's the official one that's going to bring you here to show you all the endpoints. And this other one that's a less beautiful bit.ly, that's the one that I made, which is just this PDF, or Blackbaud helped me make a couple years ago, that has just these different endpoints summaries, let's call them. Okay, I know you can't talk to me, which is a really fun game, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to leave this slide up, and I'm going to just go over to Q&A or chat. And if anybody has any questions, thoughts, comments, whether it's about use cases or how you get set up or how sharing works or anything like that, I would love to take the time and answer those today. All right, so I'm seeing a couple of different.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I moved that one by mistake.
You're good. Awesome. Thank you, Brandon, for that note from earlier. I really appreciate that. All right, so I'm just going to pause for a moment. I don't even know if I can see how many people are in here, but
I think we have 40 in here.
Oh, exciting. Hey, folks. That's awesome. I'll pause for another few minutes. I know folks might need to figure out where the chat is or where the Q&A is, and if they have any questions, they can go ahead and answer them there. Okay, great. Okay.
Oh, we got one Q. Actually, we got a few Q&A.
Okay, great. I think this guy we don't need. Okay. Offer. Okay. Of course, eager to know how to get started. Also, how to share the sheets without giving access to the original. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of the import range piece that I was kind of just referring to. So what you can do is if you essentially have, how do I do this? Answer. Oh, I'm going to approve. I don't know how that works. If I have a new sheet, let's see, are you all seeing this new sheet? Yeah, you are. Great. Awesome. If I have this new sheet, right, essentially all I'm doing is if I have this thing happening, right, here's all the data. It's coming into this sheet, and this is the sheet I don't want to share with anybody else, but I want to go ahead and get somebody else that data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a new blank spreadsheet. I'm just going to do equals import range. I'm going to add that spreadsheet URL to the source. So I'm going to copy this. I'm jumping back and forth. Sorry. I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to do the whole kit and caboodle. I don't know if it'll let me take the whole kit and caboodle. No, it wants me to do it. So I'm going to do A1 or A2 to K, let's say. And then in range, the range string, A2 to K. Am I breaking that? What'd I do wrong? Range string, maybe you have to be like this, or maybe I just broke it. Oh no, here we go. So you put that range in of what you want to be pulling. It asks to connect the two spreadsheets. You need access. Hit allow access, and then you can go ahead and do this. Obviously, I did not put in the right tab name within the sheet, but that's essentially how that works, right? You're just going ahead and pulling in here the importing range from one spreadsheet into the other spreadsheet. So hopefully that answers that question. I'm going to switch back here. Okay. Yeah, and then with Looker Studio, yeah, totally. So that's what a lot of folks have been able to do is kind of take this stuff and say, okay, especially if you go to, where am I going? This other one I was showing you a minute ago, right? This one, right? That shows, right, like how many people are enrolled in a course, especially within arts, right? You could just take this, especially now that it's in Sheets, you could take this spreadsheet, directly connect it into Looker, and then go ahead and create all your visualizations based off of this data. And then the great part is every hour, it's automatically updating. So your visualizations are automatically updating, which is just like essentially making a really dynamic dashboard or whatever you're looking for. Yeah, so you also don't need to give the users the actual data. You can visualize the data or put it in a dashboard per se. Okay, what other thoughts or questions might folks have as I sit here and I dig in? Maybe folks are just interested. Maybe these are all people who I met last year. Hooray! But hopefully folks are interested and they're finding ways to think about this. And again, even if this isn't something for you, the way I want to think about this is me learning how to do this as somebody who's both of my degrees are in music education, not at all technology or coding or anything, is figuring out how to connect these two things was a lot of beg, borrow, and steal, right? Until you kind of figure it out yourself. But then once you have a bit of a mental grasp on how this even works, there's so much more you could do besides just pulling out lists, right? So I mentioned those calendar scripts that I'm running. Those aren't based off of these lists. I'm hitting those different endpoints directly, pulling down master schedules, pulling down rosters, adding them to Google Calendar. There's a lot of other scripts that I have running because once you understand how the connections can be made, it's a lot easier to go ahead and do that. This spreadsheet, this spreadsheet is like really fantastic because it's all boxed up and you don't have to do any coding. And it's more of a proof of concept that I'm sharing out with the world. But like, if you're someone who's like, you're under the hood already, whether it's with AppScript or with Sky API, and you want to go ahead and build that connection yourself, and you just like need a little bit of help talking through it, reach out. And like, I'd love to just like, riff a little bit. Okay, cool. I'm seeing currently creating maps between databases and databases, obviously hard coding. Everything gives me a lot. John, I'm just reading your comment here really fast. One moment, we'll be able to retain that. Hard coding, guys. Yeah, John, I appreciate your question. I think I don't want to give you a hard and fast answer here because obviously I'm not 100% sure exactly what you would need. What I will say is if you're taking list data, let's say, and we do this in a couple of places, or I've seen this done in a couple of places, you're taking list data, right? Let's say it's this course list data, right? And you need, I know that's not your example, but we're going to work with it for the moment. And you need, columns A through D to be in that order. But then you need, and in this new sheet or this new, other database, but then you need actually like E and F to be switched and then moved over here. You don't have to import the entire thing. You can import range different pieces in different places and only within that space. So while you can't reorder it here as it comes down, because it's literally just mirroring what is in your advanced list, obviously you could reorder stuff at the top level, but you can go ahead and manipulate it after the fact as much as you can. So it's really a matter of how much could you manipulate this data after you already have it here. And that becomes a bit of sometimes not only import ranges, but then getting like kind of some VLOOKUP, unique ID keys that you create and stuff like that to kind of keep the data in sync with your other pieces. And I know folks who have done that, and I would love to share that as well. Essentially, can I build code on top of this script? Sure, absolutely. I mean, so this is a script that will be essentially running from a central library file. So if you would build something that was essentially working additionally with it, then yes, I think we would have to, maybe we can even chat a little bit about the ways to make sure that they don't interfere with each other and actually coexist. Jessica said, would this work for Microsoft too? That's a great question, friend. So this is very much in Google Apps Script, which is essentially a JavaScript type thing. But hardcore coders will tell me that's not. And it's not built out in anything specific to Microsoft. I'm not super familiar with that environment. And how that could work. I assume you're talking about like the ecosystem of would it work within the Microsoft ecosystem rather than would it work for like Microsoft's files, like Excel files, because you can edit Excel files within the Google Drive environment. So I don't know if that's a workaround for what you're looking for. I've done that before where I'm editing Excel files and then exporting CSVs automatically with a little bit more scripting on top. That's been really helpful. Okay, great, John. Looking forward to chatting. All right, we have about 10 minutes left. Are there any other thoughts, questions, any reactions? I'd love to be able to. Oh, Outlook calendars, friend. I know. That's a really great question. This is not going to solve that problem for you, being like completely upfront with you. But there are solutions that exist out there that might be able to help you with that. And I'm happy to share those offline. So feel free to. I'll switch back to my contact info. You can connect with me after. That was for Kristen. Great. I mean, I'm hoping that like I have, what do you say, Kent? 40 people. I hope I have 40 new replies within that form so I can go ahead and connect with more people and build out my map later this week. And if it's not for you and you love to just chat, great. If anybody's in the New York area and wants to get a Manhattan sometime, feel free to reach out as well. I think we'll wait just for like 2 more minutes just to make sure there's no other questions, since we have a few more. And otherwise, thanks so much for listening and for hanging out with me.
Yeah, so be sure. I am going to go ahead. We'll wait for some questions and stuff too, but I'm going to go ahead and launch the survey for today's session. So please be sure to show Nick some love and thank him for sharing all of his great knowledge and stuff. I know he's been a repeat presenter for BB Dev Days, and so I don't know if any of y'all know this. I don't know if they announced it at the keynote or whatever, but this is like the largest BB Dev Days ever. And so that's really cool. I think there's more people at BB Dev Days than there were at BBCon as far as customers were last year. So it's really growing. Awesome. So thank you, Nick, for participating in it and presenting your great info.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, folks. And I see y'all found the chat. So I see there's a little emoticon icon there too. So feel free to have fun with it as you're walking out the door.
Right. All right, Nick. Well, thank you again for coming back and sharing some great info. Again, be sure you turn in your Innovation Awards request or your application, your video by 5 p.m. Eastern time today. I got to get that straight. I'm over here on Central Time. So 5 p.m. Eastern time today, get that submitted so you maybe can have, I know like you talk about Microsoft or teachers' calendars on it. Maybe that's one of those deals where the Innovation Award could work on something like that for you. So thanks again, Nick. And I'm going to drop backstage and hope the rest of you have a great BB Dev Days.
Awesome. Thank you all.